So in this game we actually saw Ten Hag show a clear tactical plan that from a defensive point of view worked very well, and whilst from an offensive point of view United didn't create enough throughout the full game, having a much lower XG at the end of the game than Liverpool, I think this was largely down to the inability of two players, Amrabat and Antony. But in this video I'm going to be specifically analysing Amrabat and why I think Kobbie Mainoo has to take his place as that deep single pivot. But before I get into that, if you like me love retro jerseys as much as the modern jerseys, then go over to Jersey FIFA. You can check out all their Manchester United retro jerseys going back to the early 90s. They've also got other clubs and international sides as well. If you use code Atlantis at checkout, you should also get a discount. A link will be in my Instagram bio, which I will leave linked in the description. United were fairly passive out of possession, but in this game as opposed to others, the midfield was extremely compact and both Antony and Garnacho did a fantastic job in the wide positions, both in terms of positioning themselves narrow in order to cut off the passing lanes from the centre backs into the central midfielders, whilst also diligently tracking the forward runs of the Liverpool fullbacks. But despite having success in stopping Liverpool being able to break down their 4-4-2 defensive shape, both in their middle and defensive third, United's issue came in the transition, as defensively Amrabat had a tough game, just not having the pace and athleticism needed to stop the likes of Szoboszlai and Gravenberch driving through the centre of the pitch. But also when Amrabat was dragged into wide positions, he was caught flat-footed, and really he just struggled to keep pace with the Liverpool midfielders, and with Ten Hag opting for a man-to-man press, certainly in Liverpool's half, Mainoo was often drawn higher up the pitch away from Amrabat, which left the Moroccan isolated. But in possession, Amrabat also just doesn't have the sort of press resistance and fluidity when under pressure with his back to go in the defensive third that both Dalot and Mainoo showcased in this game, with Dalot performing a wonderful side-on turn after receiving the ball in a deep single pivot position, and Mainoo having the composure of a seasoned pro. After about 15 minutes of the match, I was actually looking at Amrabat like potentially he had to be replaced, as he was just so slow and clunky on the ball, particularly during the build-up phase, inviting pressure and allowing Liverpool to squeeze up the pitch. And even in the middle third and in Liverpool's half, he was just too slow moving the ball and was just making silly mistakes with wayward short passes that stopped United being able to build up momentum. Mainoo on the other hand showed exemplary ball control under pressure in these sorts of positions, and his vision, composure and technique to get the ball out of his feet and move the ball forward quickly was a level above what Amrabat was showing. I think Mainoo has to take Amrabat's position as a deep single pivot, as a Fiorentina loanee he's just not good enough under pressure in these sorts of games, and even though I thought both centre-backs Varane and Evans, and in particular Onana in goal, were actually very good at progressing the ball out of the box, it was just that with Amrabat as the connecting deep single pivot, United didn't really have a viable option to play through the centre, and so were often forced into longer, lower probability passes, which with Andre Onana in goal is certainly a great backup option, but United's inability to play through the centre of the pitch often leads to them playing out to the flanks and becoming very predictable. Although with Amrabat taking up that deep single pivot position in possession, it did allow Kobbie Mainoo to push further forward, sitting in behind Gravenberch, and when United on one occasion did manage to cut through the centre of the Liverpool midfield, with McTominay's well-threaded pass in behind Gravenberch to Mainoo in the half space, the youngster in Bruno-esque fashion was able to control the ball quickly, get it out of his feet before releasing an inch-perfect curling through ball in behind Alexander-Arnold for Garnacho's diagonal run. And I think in a season or two with added strength, Garnacho is able to get in front of Trent and slot the ball away, but on this occasion the Argentine couldn't quite brush off the fullback before his tackle. I mean, pretty much in every area, both in and out of possession, Mainoo looks superior to Amrabat in this game. If you're going to play that deepest midfielder role in the United midfield, you need to not only have the tackling ability, but also the athleticism to come across when needed in order to break up the attacks. And there were multiple times throughout this game, as Diaz does here, where Liverpool players were beating Amrabat in a sort of 1v1 duels that Casemiro was dominating last season. And even inside of the box, when Trent receives the ball in front of Amrabat, the United midfielder just doesn't do enough to stop Trent advancing, getting caught flat-footed, and allowing Trent to drive past him into a dangerous position. And even here you can see later on in the game as Amrabat is driving out of the defensive third that both McTominay and Mainoo are in dangerous positions in behind the Liverpool midfield line, and Amrabat doesn't have the vision to see the first opportunity, and when it comes back to him in front of the Liverpool midfield line, this is a type of midfield splitting pass that United need from their deepest midfielder, as if Amrabat gets the ball out of his feet quicker and threads that pass into Mainoo, the teenager can then control the ball in behind Luis Diaz before then driving forward directly at the Liverpool back line. However, Amrabat instead opts for the safer pass out to Dalot, which whilst retaining possession, leads to Diaz being goal side and now being able to trigger a press. And from a position where United could have potentially got in behind Liverpool's midfield, running into the final third, they are now all the way back in the box with the keeper. And so to me, Amrabat in that deep single pivot position is causing massive problems because of his lack of athleticism and clunkiness out of possession, and also his lack of fluidity in his movement and his incisive passing ability in possession. The problem for Ten Hag is that even when Casemiro comes back, whilst he'll surely be an improvement on Amrabat defensively, he's not really the type of midfielder who is going to break the lines with these passes from deep, nor does he have the necessary press resistance in the build-up phase. And so I think Kobbie Mainoo has to be dropped further back. As well as it was interesting to see him showcase his talents further forward, I think both Mount and Fernandes when they return can play that role between the lines just as well or probably better than Mainoo, and United desperately need someone with Mainoo's technical ability in that deeper midfield position.